Timbaland played a key role in making some of the greatest songs of the 2000s. Now he tries his best to convince the general public to go against their best interests and accept AI-generated music as the future. Timbo, for about a year now, has been the strategic advisor to a company called Suno, one of the biggest AI music generation platforms out there. The strategy that he seemingly has cooked up has been to drum up controversy on social media and put his legacy on the line to start conversations about the future of music. And if you haven't seen it, the predominant response on social media has been pretty much just negative. It even got close to being litigious after he ran another artist's beat through the Suno software without getting that artist's consent, leading him to have to apologize. During his pro-AI press run last month, he introduced his own AI-generated artist, a girl with pink hair and a face tat below the eye named Tata. He co-founded a company to run it all, from which Tata is supposed to be the first of many AI-generated artists. One of his co-founders, Rocky Mudaliar, said, "Ultimately, what Tim's here to do is to pioneer a new genre of music, A-pop, artificial pop." The first reaction that a lot of people might have to hearing the term A-pop is queasiness, or maybe just a sense of detachment, like, there's no way I'm ever gonna choose to listen to that when I have the history of humanity's recorded music at my fingertips on Spotify. But I have a sobering fact for you. People are already doing that. It's not new. This isn't something that's just waiting on the horizon and then when it comes out we can make fun of it like the Facebook metaverse thing. This is already happening. In fact, it might already be in your Discover Weekly on Spotify. For the past few weeks, an apparently artificially generated band has been running rampant on Spotify, racking up millions of streams and wreaking all sorts of havoc on people's algorithms. I'm gonna tell you all about that, I'm gonna tell you where I think this is going, and also share some ideas that I think could maybe make this landscape a little bit less awful. But first, if you like videos on music like this one, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. I post a video every week. If you want to see them early, go to my Instagram, HADJI, throw me a follow, and join my broadcast channel. I post all my videos in there one day early for free. Also, HADJI, a real live artist, is going on tour this summer, and I will be with a bunch of other really talented, living, real artists. Damage, Rob Apollo, Snow Xavier. If you live in the West Coast, if you live in the Midwest, or you live in New York, there's a pretty good chance I'm coming to your city. Tickets are on sale in the description right now, and the dates are on the screen. I can't wait to see you there. Let's get back to the video. Last month, a band called the Velvet Sundown started appearing in some people's Discover Weekly playlists on Spotify. The music is passable, softer, vintage-sounding psychedelic rock that maybe you would expect to hear in the background of a coffee shop or a thrift store. The type of shit one of the characters from Master of None will be listening to. The cover art for both of their two albums look like something you would get if you went into the ChatGPT image generator and you were like, give me a Tame Impala album cover. That's right, they already have two albums, both of which came out in June, 15 days apart from each other. And then if you look at their header on Spotify, you see that they're advertising a pre-save for a third album coming out this month. Wow, these guys are so prolific. Where do they find the time? But then you look at their artist picture, and something is off. Uncanny even. Why is that picture so yellow? Well, that, my friends, is what we in the business call the piss tint. For some reason, some of the more popular AI image generation tools love to pop out images with this yellowish tint. This isn't a prolific real-life band that dropped 2 albums in a month. This is someone's AI project. Word started to spread about this during the second half of June. And by the end of the month, outlets like NME, Stereogum, and Mashable had all covered the band. They picked apart the profile, pointing out a few more things that are dead giveaways of AI shenanigans, a long meandering bio with similes and metaphors that are just a little bit odd to the average English speaker, like a scent that suddenly takes you back somewhere you didn't expect, or just songs that feel like intimate conversations with yourself. What? The band lists 4 members, of which nobody has been able to find on social media anywhere, and while that doesn't mean that they aren't real people, nobody has found any evidence to support that they are. Some wonder if this is intentional rage bait, a real band pretending to be an AI band to get attention. And sure enough, an article appeared on Rolling Stone last week where they spoke to a quote-unquote spokesperson for the Velvet Sundown, Andrew Freeland, who called it an art hoax. Let's hear it right from him. Personally, I'm interested in art hoaxes. I think that stuff's really interesting. We live in a world now where things that are fake have sometimes even more impact than things that are real, and that's messed up, but that's the reality that we face now. So it's like, should we ignore that reality? Should we ignore these things that kind of exist on a continuum of real versus fake, or kind of a blend between the two? Or should we dive into it and just let it be the emerging native language of the internet? It's a little bit of a college freshman hits the bong for the first time kind of take, but his point about things that are fake having more impact than things that are real, it does unfortunately ring true in 2025 in a lot of different parts of society. But things got even weirder after this Rolling Stone article. The band's official social media posted that this Andrew Freeland character, who, much like the band members you can't find anything about on social media, is an imposter who is pretending to be them. Their bio on Spotify was updated to include a blurb about this. Then, the guy Andrew Freeland himself posted a blurb on Medium about how that's not his real name and he has nothing to do with the music, but instead created a fake Twitter profile for the Velvet Sundown, and real journalists reached out, even though they had a different Twitter linked in their Spotify. So he pretended to be a spokesperson for the band, got a Rolling Stone interview as a way to prove a point about how journalists can be careless and in a rush to be the first to cover a story. Rolling Stone then had to issue a second article explaining that, and as I work on this video, this is the third time I've had to come back to keep adding to it. The next day, the actual people behind the Velvet Sundown came out with a statement. The Velvet Sundown is a synthetic music project guided by human creative direction and composed, voiced, and visualized with the support of artificial intelligence. This isn't a trick, it's a mirror. An ongoing artistic provocation designed to challenge the boundaries of authorship, identity, and the future of music itself in the age of AI. All characters, stories, music, voices, and lyrics are original creations generated with the assistance of artificial intelligence tools employed as creative instruments. Any resemblance to actual places, events, or persons living or deceased is purely coincidental and unintentional. Not quite human, not quite machine. The Velvet Sundown lives somewhere in between. Long-winded way to say yes, we are AI. None of this even matters for the main point, because the Velvet Sundown are not the only AI-driven band running it up on Spotify right now. A few days ago, Music Business Worldwide covered the outlaw country artist Aventhis, who currently at this time has over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. In the fans also like section for Aventhis is Deviate, which I'm guessing is pronounced DV8, who is currently on the Viral 50 playlist in Germany. While I haven't seen any journalists cover this guy, the images scream AI to me. So in case you were crossing your fingers hoping the Velvet Sundown was some isolated example, you can go ahead and uncross those, buddy. I can even say from personal experience of posting my music online that fans are just kind of used to seeing things that use AI in them. My friend and I started rolling out this duo Elmjack this year where we make the music, but then we have our dads in all the videos. And every other TikTok or reel that I get is like, this is some sort of AI voice. Is this an AI filter? Whether it's the music or the actual image itself. Even friends of mine who just had never seen my dad before thought I was using an AI filter. It's pretty funny because it implies that I look so much like my dad that if you put an AI filter on me, I would just be him. But what's crazy is that when we started working on this project and the idea for it last year, like we had no consideration that people would see this and think, oh, this is AI, but things changed so fast. A lot of the focus around the Velvet Sundown was about the fact that they have over 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and I'm sure that number will keep going up by the time this video comes out. But I want to caution against using that as some sort of metric of success. Because a monthly listener just means that someone clicked on one of their songs in the last month. So if these articles are going around saying, here's this AI band, like people are going to click on it because they're curious what it sounds like. That's just level one. Beyond that, Spotify has a section called Discovered On that I personally like to use when I want to see if someone is botting their streams. One look at the Velvet Sundown's Discovered On should reveal some pretty serious monkey business here. Look at some of these playlists. Supernatural soundtrack, Twilight Saga, Twilight Complete soundtrack, Lucifer soundtrack, The OC soundtrack, Vampire Diaries soundtrack, Garden State soundtrack, Suits soundtrack. Obviously, this band that released music for the first time last month was not on the soundtrack of these TV shows and movies that came out 25 years ago. This is a classic method to run up streams on the Spotify platform. Somebody makes a playlist that contains all the songs from the soundtrack of that movie or that TV show or that video game, but then they sprinkle in some songs that somebody paid them to put in there so that the streams will go up. I would know because this is something that people did for my music early in my career. It's not something that I ever paid anybody to do, but I was working with people who ran playlists like this. And that was the method in 2018, 2019, but people are smarter now. So doing this means you can just go to the Discovered On and look at it and be like, dude, come on. I ain't proud of it, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you either. The reason why artists do it is because it jumpstarts them in the Spotify algorithm. And let me save you from becoming one of those monthly listeners. This music is not particularly interesting at all. It's like if you took the Eagles, or Led Zeppelin, and you just like ran it through an AI filter, it would pop out something that sounds like this. The one thing that really threw me off is that the singer's voice just kind of sounds different on a bunch of the songs, and it's like, obviously it's not the same guy. Well, it's not a guy at all. It's like an AI model. Of course, just because the monthly listeners number is not like perfectly representative of how many people like and are fans of the Velvet Sundown, doesn't mean that those people don't exist. You see the stray Reddit comment here or there amidst the hay pile, a little needle in the haystack, bravely saying that they think the songs are kind of good. But plenty Spotify users are just going to their Discover Weekly, putting it on shuffle while they sit down at work Monday morning to go through the emails from the weekend. Music streaming is such a passive activity, and so there will be a huge percentage of listenership that gets served a Velvet Sundown song in the algorithm and then just doesn't investigate further at all. Either they think, oh, this is all right, and they save it to a playlist, or they just let it play and don't click on the profile or look into it. And we know this to be true because this happens to living, breathing musicians all the time. I mean, this happens to me all the time. I've told this story 1,000 times on this channel, but I remember meeting my girlfriend's friends for the first time, and they'll be like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, oh, I'm a musician. And they're like, oh, cool, what kind of music do you make? And I tell them my artist name, and they're like, cool, I'll have to check it out. And then like 2 or 3 days later, they text my girlfriend and they're like, oh, I've had his song saved for like 3 years. And this happened to me multiple times. So people can have my music saved. They can create memories with my music. And still, when I meet them in person, shake their hand and say, hi, this is me, I do this for a living, they don't even connect the dots. We're at the point of a fragmented society with a complete lack of monoculture, where there are artists with #1 hits that most people could not pick out of a police lineup. Half of the discourse around Benson Boone is people asking, who the hell is Benson Boone? Now imagine what it's like to be an artist with 100,000 monthly listeners. We need to take a step back and think critically about what AI is about to do to the music industry. It's not a new conversation. It's not even really new to this channel. I've made at least 2 or 3 videos before that were specifically focused on AI, whether it's because of A-list artists like Kanye West or allegedly Playboi Carti in The Weeknd using it, or its role in the Drake versus Kendrick beef, or people selling fake AI Frank Ocean leaks. But now I want to ask the question, what are we supposed to do now that the platforms we go to listen to music on are filled with AI music, without a lot of people even knowing what's AI and what isn't? The French streaming service Deezer did an analysis of their platform and found that in January, about 10% of the new music that was getting uploaded every day was AI. By April, they updated that number to 18%. This is a growing problem, and I think there's a pretty large percentage of listenership that would actively reject something if they knew it was AI. But I also think a lot of those people would only know if they saw a big fat label on it that said, this is AI. And I think there's a group of people that wouldn't care, and I think there's groups of people that think AI art is the greatest thing in the world. But as of right now, I would guess that those last 2 groups are pretty small. So I think there's a pretty obvious first step that a lot of these platforms can take. So what I think Spotify and Apple Music and all of these other platforms should be doing is putting a label on music that was created using some sort of AI. They should also, as a next step, in my opinion, not algorithmically boost that music. So for example, on Spotify, that means don't put it in Discover Weeklies, don't put it on day lists, don't put it on the radio, don't make the DJ make me listen to it. There should even maybe be a checkbox that you click where you opt out of all AI music, and then they just gray those songs out. Kind of like what happens if you like block an artist on Spotify. The thing is, this is not even some radical idea that I came up with. The French streaming service Deezer that I already mentioned, they already do this. In January of this year, they announced what they called a cutting-edge AI music detection tool that automatically identifies and labels music as potentially being created using AI. On the Velvet Sundown album on Deezer, there's a note that says, some tracks on this album may have been created using artificial intelligence. They also do not boost these songs in their algorithmic recommendations. Well, multiple Spotify users have reported getting the Velvet Sundown in their algorithmically driven playlists like Discover Weekly or their day list. Discover Weekly is the Wild West already, by the way. Like, forget about AI music. There's tons of like leaks from major artists that end up in there that just were not uploaded by the major artists. Like, my girlfriend was listening to a Future song that was not uploaded by Future yesterday. To me, these labels and the algorithmic deplatforming is a common sense solution, matching what social media platforms like Instagram are already doing. And with one streaming service leading the way on this, there really is no excuse to not be doing this. The real question is, how much further should the intervention go? I think there's a pretty fascinating conversation around whether or not AI-generated music should be earning royalties on platforms like Spotify. And to understand the basis of this conversation, we should take a step back and figure out how royalties are calculated. A song contains 2 parts, the master recording like the actual physical recording of that song and the composition, so the lyrics and the music that were written and then recorded in that song. So basically, if I wrote and produced a song by myself and then I uploaded it, I own both of those things. If I did a cover of somebody else's song, I own the master, but I don't own the composition. If someone covered my song, they own that master, but they don't own the composition, I do. So basically, a song is generating two different types of royalties. And those payments also arrive in two different places. If your songs are uploaded to streaming services, then you're definitely using some sort of distributor to get it on there, like DistroKid or TuneCore or Too Lost. Through those distributors, you get paid royalties on your recording on the master, and they usually come once a month. At the same time, as long as you're registering your songs on the publishing side with a platform like BMI or ASCAP, then you're getting checks, mine are quarterly with BMI, for the publishing royalties. And so there's a common misconception about the royalties that you get from Spotify or from Apple Music. People tend to say like, oh, you get this much per stream on Spotify. Well, that might end up being the case. That's not actually how it works. Let's take a look at Spotify's explanation for how they determine royalties on their website. After explaining how they subtract their cost of business, they say, the rights holder's share of net revenue is determined by stream share. We calculate stream share by tallying the total number of streams in a given month and determining what proportion of those streams were people listening to music owned or controlled by a particular rights holder. Contrary to what you might have heard, Spotify does not pay artist royalties according to a per play or per stream rate. The royalty payments that artists receive might vary according to differences in how their music is streamed or the agreements they have with labels or distributors. Apple Music is more of the same. They also note that royalties from streaming services are calculated on a stream share basis. So basically, instead of just paying every artist like X dollars per stream, what they do is they take the total amount of money that they earn from subscriptions and ad revenue, they take out their costs of whatever those are, and then they divide what's left and they give you a fraction based on what percentage of all of those streams were yours. Like if you go to one of those Spotify stream calculators and you look up like how much do I get per stream, you'll notice that there's a lot of variables. And so these numbers that we often see, they're just averages of what it usually ends up being. You might ask, what the hell does that have to do with AI music? We'll get there. But first we need to figure out, does music generated by AI actually generate royalties? Suno, which is probably the number one option for people looking to generate AI music right now, says that as long as you made the songs while being subscribed to a Pro or Premier account, then those songs are covered by a commercial use license. According to them, you're free to upload them to Spotify and make money. They also say you are considered the owner of the song, which is interesting wording to me because to a lawyer, there's probably a difference between saying you are the owner and you are considered the owner. At the same time, they also clarify that your music might not be eligible for copyright protection. In the US, copyright laws protect material created by a human. Music made 100% with AI would not qualify for copyright protection because a human did not write the lyrics or the music. Writing the prompt does not constitute the creation of the song. If you wrote the lyrics to the AI song, though, then you could register those lyrics and the song could be eligible for copyright protection. While Suno is letting its paid subscribers generate royalties off of their creations for now, true ownership of AI music is a more complex topic. Part of the argument comes from determining what exactly these AI models are trained on. In a lawsuit filing from last year, Suno admitted that Suno's training data includes essentially all music files of reasonable quality that are accessible on the open internet. This means that the model, creating all the music that people are getting out of their prompts, is using all of the music on the internet, including yours and mine, and pretty much everyone who's ever released a song that's readily available. This is the big thing holding me back from accepting Suno or Udio as another tool like Splice, a place where you can just find a sample to add to your overall workflow. I'm not talking about people who just generate songs off of Suno and Udio and plop them right on Spotify. I'm talking about people who use them to create a sample and then maybe take that sample and chop it up and do things that producers and musicians do and then make something that sounds pretty different. Even though I don't personally use AI in my workflow, I see the latter as something that is definitely less problematic in theory. But on Splice or on another similar sample library, the music is acknowledged to be royalty-free, and Splice is paying the creators of those packs. On Suno or Udio, the music is trained off of musicians who as of right now are not getting anything. So if we can't turn back and we have to accept that these models are going to exist, then that needs to change somehow. Some argue that what would be the most fair is for these AI tracks to pay royalties to the musician whose music was used as training for that particular track. The three major labels and Suno and Udio have been negotiating some sort of licensing deal for months now. And basically, the labels are trying to get a piece of Suno and Udio so that they have equity in these companies, and as they grow, they're going to make money off of them. But as of right now, there are plenty of hurdles for these companies to work through before anything becomes a done deal. But in the Billboard article talking about those hurdles, it mentions two companies that are based around the idea of attribution, or tracking when someone's song is used in an AI model. Surreal AI and Musical AI are two companies that are trying to be able to do that. So perhaps if that technology becomes good enough, that can be a required part of the solution. In the meantime though, I thought it would be fun if I asked my followers if they thought AI generated music should get royalties on Spotify. Over 90% of people voted no, but I also have to acknowledge that's an incredibly biased group of people because a lot of them are musicians who make music that want to make money off their non-AI generated music. Remember, when you understand that royalties are a share of the pie, and a share of overall streaming behavior, then these AI songs that are racking up a lot of streams on Spotify, but probably aren't bringing a lot of new paid subscribers to that pool, some people can interpret that as taking money out of artists' pockets. If you spend days on a song and one guy spent 15 minutes uploading a prompt onto Suno, it's no wonder why you feel superior to the guy who did way less labor. But then somebody in my DMs brought up a great point. If Spotify didn't have to pay royalties to AI generated music, then they would just algorithmically push that music way more, because then they wouldn't have to owe anybody money for it. It would only incentivize them to push that music harder. This type of restriction without another restriction that banned AI music from making it into the algorithm could actually be horrible for artists as a whole. And Spotify, for one, already engages in a practice called perfect fit content. Liz Pelly wrote an excellent article for Harper's called The Ghost in the Machine that details this phenomenon. Basically, Spotify goes to a music production company and pays them to produce music that is typically listened to in the background. Jazz, lo-fi, easy listening, instrumental kind of music. In these agreements, Spotify is either paying the royalties to themselves or paying out a smaller rate as an agreement with that production company. Either way, one former Spotify employee described it in the article as music that we benefited from financially. Then, Spotify fills its editorial and algorithmic playlists with this music, thus reducing the share of overall royalties that go to other artists who are just uploading to the platform. While there is no evidence that Spotify was using any sort of AI-generated music in this program, the AI space is rapidly changing. And it goes to reason that they could totally do something like this in the future. In the Rolling Stone article about the Velvet Sundown, they interviewed a former Spotify employee named Glenn McDonald, who built a lot of their genre-driven data infrastructure. And he thinks that AI music could certainly thrive on Spotify with how the platform is built today. Most fake bands still won't be successful, and of course, nobody notices when an AI band gets no listeners, but there are no protections against it happening. And probably from Spotify's business point of view, it's not even clear that this is a bad thing to be quote-unquote protected against. So to be frank, I don't really know what the best path forward is for musicians who actually make their music. You can make the argument that these musicians should be unionizing, and people who create fully AI music should be seen as scabs, or defectors from the cause. I used to believe that listeners and people had the power to self-select, and thus AI music would almost always be seen as too soulless, or too cheap while compared to the best of the best that's created by humans. But the issue is, on algorithm-driven platforms like Spotify, like TikTok, like Instagram, most people aren't self-selecting. The platform encourages users to pick options that then deliver things to them, like daylists, radio, DJ, Discover Weekly, and the songs that automatically play after whatever you were just listening to. What the Velvet Sundown has taught us is that as of right now, the algorithm will push AI-generated music in front of people who have no idea that they're listening to it. And that's pretty bleak. Beyond just pushing AI songs, Spotify and Apple are both companies that are fully gung-ho on the future of AI technology. Daniel Ek, the founder and CEO of Spotify, just led a close to $700 million investment in Helsing, a company that uses AI to create drones for military operations. Maybe Spotify can start updating their day lists to have things like, your house just got drone striked Wednesday. But seriously though, this is cartoonishly evil stuff. And it does make me reconsider using Spotify as my streaming service of choice. One band, Deerhoof, just took their music off the platform because of this issue. I think I'm considering doing that at least like as a listener, if they don't do something about this Velvet Sundown type of stuff. I know they're gonna do that LeBron reaction when they see that they lost $12.99 a month for me. And at the same time, it's not like Apple Music is some anti-AI pro-artist bastion of freedom either. It feels pretty helpless, I can't lie. I've been racking my brain throughout the entirety of this video for some sort of positive spin on all of this. Or at least some sort of motivation to leave artists with, so let me at least try, I guess. Let's look 5 years into the future and say that AI has become an even bigger part of our lives. ChatGPT has completely overtaken Google. People have framed AI pictures of their family in their house. And a lot of the music in their Discover Weekly is just straight up AI slop. People will want an escape from that, right? I still believe that as of right now, AI music cannot fully recreate the human emotion. The types of things that break through and make the best songs the best ones. You think an AI model can make Rodeo Clown by Dijon? An AI model cannot stay up all night drinking in a room full of its friends and ruin its voice intentionally so that it can create the ultimate heartbroken lead singer. It's just not possible. I'd like to see them try. So I believe for sure there will be some sort of industry specifically for AI-free music. Think of it like how people like to go support small businesses on purpose. Or maybe they buy fair trade coffee or union-made t-shirts. Or even how some people go out of their way to support independent artists. Maybe Spotify and other DSPs will try to make us forget about all of this and create like a no AI editorial playlist. Too little, too late, guys. At the end of the day, fans who love artists on a deeper level, they're usually there for two different reasons: relatability or aspiration. People may be falling in love with their AI chatbots, but that connection will always be stronger with a real person, right? God, I hope so. In terms of aspiration, when you know someone took 5 clicks in a paragraph to make a song, it's not that awe-inspiring. Think about the people who camp out at McGee shows to get a picture of his pedal board. It's the mystique, the oh my god, how did somebody make this? That makes people want to support artists, makes them want to go to shows. Are you gonna go to an AI artist concert? Are you gonna buy their merch? That's where a lot of the money in music is right now. Never say never, but these AI generated artists will have a much harder time breaking into that. Because those are all things that involve active choice from listeners. Getting served something in an algorithm is not an active choice. Going to a show, buying a t-shirt, that is an active choice. Good luck beating a real human who is really talented in that world. So let's not give up. Keep making that music. Not because it's going to be easy to make money off of, but because human expression, skill, and talent are only going to get rarer and rarer in a world where everybody gets lazier and lazier. Now, the people aware of this who are also privileged enough to be able to live without a smartphone try to grab that Motorola Razr out of their mom's basement, or they go buy one of the fancy light phones so that they can get that peace of mind. The AI revolution will have similar side effects. Instead of people longing for days where they can sit down and read a book for 100 pages straight without getting distracted, they'll long for the days where they could actually write something or play an instrument. Get out in front of that and don't let those skills atrophy in the first place. They will be worth something, if not to the rest of the world monetarily in our system, they will be worth something to you and your health and your mental health. And if you aren't going to switch off Spotify, then please just go hit that block button on the Velvet Sundown